This video is brought to you by Midway USA. Support the channel by choosing Midway for your shooting and outdoor supplies.
Hello and welcome to Bloke on the 9-Hole Reviews. We are currently here in DPM Paradise and we shall speak about the lovely SLR.
What he said, but it's God's own bang sticks to you.
You're not supposed to have that actually, so disregard.
Target number 1. Impact. Impact. Target 2. Right in there. Neutralized. Target 3. Impact, that was low. Maybe it wasn't low at the base?
No, that one I adjusted towards the middle line.
Target 4. Impact. Just off the left edge, 8 or 9 o'clock, quarter target. Impact. Target number 5. The wind is crosswinding kind of wild, actually.
Yeah, I see it. I see it.
We've got a...
It really picked up, huh?
Okay, I'm on target. Just short. Impact. Impact.
400 yards for the next one?
Should be. Just to the left of the pigs.
Okay.
I'm there. Impact. Just underneath them, 6 o'clock. Impact.
Okay.
Okay, I'm on at the 450, just at the base of the flag.
Okay.
Just underneath them. Just over his head. Split that difference. Impact.
Oof, it's this same mag. I need to mark this magazine.
I came off glass because I thought you were clearing a malfunction. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Oh, shoot, I do have a malfunction. Oh, I'm sorry, I shot at the wrong target. I don't think we should count that one. I actually shot at the wrong target.
Impact.
Man, this magazine, dude.
Yeah. Just off the left edge. Just underneath him, 6 o'clock. And on the right edge, you have scared him a lot. That's an impact. That's an impact.
Nice.
Alright, well there's that. You want to go out to the gong?
Yeah. So basically what we'll do right now, we'll max it out at the The sight system on this, Josh, goes out to 600. And I have maxed it out to 600, so I'll hold it at the gong, probably high, since the gong is 650, correct?
It's, yeah, around, right about that, plus minus.
I need to mark this magazine. Alright, so these are just bonus rounds, correct?
Yeah, we've cleared the course.
Oh.
High, good windage. Bring it down half a target. Just short, 6 o'clock. More significantly short on that one.
Okay.
Impact.
Woo.
Nice.
So this is a strange thing. I mean, I think, so we saw a lot of malfunctions here, but that's actually a good thing to talk about. Outside of the fact that this is not the first run that we just did on this course. One of the weaknesses, the sight retaining screw in the front backed out, and it just wasn't gathering any hits. But another thing that is a weakness to the FAL, which I would argue translates to the weakness of the SCAR, Josh, the magazines. I far prefer the traditional feed lip magazines to the FAL L1A1 SLR type magazines. I don't know if that translates to the SCAR, but I've been wondering why this thing had feeding issues, but I could definitively feel a difference between the rifle struggling to feed from this magazine. The ejection was a lot closer to the rifle, and the recoil was actually a lot more milder than when I plugged this magazine
with a different
in.
mag?
Yeah. I don't know why. I'm going to have to investigate. But perhaps we should go to the debrief, and we'll discuss it there.
All right, sounds good.
They've said that snipers commit an act of ungentlemanly warfare. Well, guilty as charged, Your Honor. I hope you're enjoying the show thus far. Shows like this, they're brought to you by Slate Black Industries. But most importantly, we're supported by the patrons of Patreon and Utreon. That's right, this lovely group of men and women, they support us financially, intellectually, but most importantly, emotionally. So today I'd like to invite you, come, join us, become one of us. Together, we'll set our sights on the future development of small arms. But if you cannot, that's all right. We completely understand. We'd be just as happy if you were to leave us a comment right below. But for now, let's get on with it.
From the Bloke Broadcasting Corporation.
The mighty SLR. Such glory to have two of these in the same frame.
Real one.
Ah, yes, indeed. So we can speak a little bit about yours, but today let's summarize a little bit. I wanted to start, let's talk about a little bit of what we saw on the range, and then we could talk about the background of the SLR, and I want to hear about what the cultural image of the SLR is in the UK, or for anyone in the armed services. So, to be honest, when I was shooting, at first I was disappointed once we finished. But I think that's because the magazines weren't cooperating with me.
Yeah, I thought you did quite well. You certainly had a magazine issue, but I think you were undergassed as well, because if I remember rightly, and it's actually quite a while since I watched it the first time now, you had a failure to eject. The bolt came back part way, and it reinserted the empty case in the chamber, which by definition can't be a magazine-related issue. That's an undergassing issue. The bolt's just not coming far enough back for the empty case to hit the ejector, because it's a blade ejector.
So I'm wondering, and this is me going back afterwards and shooting the rifle again, I put it on a higher gas setting and it seemed to relieve itself. But I'm wondering if it's a combination of the two. Perhaps the magazine before had lower spring tension, and so there was putting less spring tension on the bolt, and it was cycling through because the previous magazine had no issues. It was towards the second magazine that it started choking up. And when I went back and I turned the gas up 3 notches, it took 3 notches, and it seemed to be fine.
Yeah. I mean, the mag design on these is not great. Let's not beat about the bush here. The feed lips come into play in the feed pathway, and if there's any issues with them, particularly up the front, you can get feed issues.
I see you've got the alley mag.
Yes, indeed, I have an LMG mag. In fact, I have 2 LMG mags, because when one is taking one's SLR to finish brutality, one needs to be alley, because alliness saves lives, and also 30 rounds is better than 20.
Now, for the audience who do not know what we're talking about, Mike actually has a segment where he's talking about the alliness and what alliness means on the podcast channel. The bottom line is, it is what we call drip nowadays. And if you were in the Falklands and you had a wood-gripped handguard,
yep,
with long LMG magazines inserted into your SLR, more than likely you were someone with a bit of seniority in the organization.
It's interesting because often the new and shiny thing is alley by virtue of being new and shiny, but with the SLR, it seems that the plastic wood grip was the noob thing, and the old and bold managed to keep their hands on sexy oiled wood as long as possible.
It was like that for us, for us in the US with the M81 camouflage, woodland camouflage. Yeah. If you had woodland on stuff, that was the cool thing. Because by the point, at first, when multicam first came out, that was a symbol of the special operations.
It was alley at the start, and now everyone's got it. It's not alley anymore. So you've got to go in a different direction, either backwards or forwards, to be alley again. It's the alliness to Mong cycle.
Yeah.
But
I would dare and say that the more vintage items tend to have a more everlasting alley cycle to it, because it's no longer produced.
Yeah, I mean, that was the general thing that it seemed to be. Unfortunately, with MTP, they have prohibited DPM items, thereby breaking the DPM alliness cycle.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
So let's talk about mine and yours. So what we saw shoot that day was mine, which was an inbuilt receiver. Interesting thing, it's a metric receiver that was cut to take inch magazines.
Yeah, the difference is the size of the lug on the front, and you can use a metric mag in an inch FAL, but the reliability tanks.
It's not the greatest, but it works. No. It doesn't work the other way around.
No,
at all. So you'll see that my metric receiver, this is a Type 3 receiver, whereas Mike's right there is a Type 1.
This is an actual legit 1961 BSA.
And so one of the easiest ways of seeing some of these kit build American SLRs is looking at the receiver and making sure that it has a lightning cut. Although that is not entirely definitive, because Enterprise also made some with a correct lightning cut. Point is, this one has a licensed factory-built metric receiver, because it's an inbuilt receiver, so it's built in a licensed factory in Brazil. But the rest of the kit, all of it is British, to include the barrel. I would say, from what I've seen, it shoots somewhere between 2.5 to 3 MOA.
That's pretty good for a FAL.
For a FAL, that is not bad.
Would not complain about that.
Yeah, because typically I've seen even the metric FALs that we've shot on the course tend to be between 3 to 4 MOA, more than 2.5 to 3.
Yeah, which is fine.
Yeah.
Absolutely fine. People, I mean, they're not minute of angle rifles. They will never be minute of angle rifles. If you wanted to make, I know the New Zealanders have done a DMR upgrade, which is real. I mean, they bought LMT. It was like you bought LMT AR-15s as a standard infantry rifle to replace the AUG. Why did you then throw money at old SLRs to make a DMR when you could have just said, hey, LMT, with that shipment, could you chuck in 120 of the L129s, please?
And the thing is, there's Commonwealth standard for the 129s.
Oh.
So I'm not sure why they didn't go that route.
Don't know why.
It could not have been that expensive of a project compared to a force-wide changeover. But regardless, let's get back to the mighty SLR for now. 2.5 to 3 for mine. What's yours?
Mine has done in the past with known good ammo, 10 round groups at 300 meters into about 2.5 off the irons.
Now that's 300 meters with irons, so keep that in mind. Yours is also a factory refurb model, so it is essentially a new SLR.
Yeah, it's matching upper and lower, and then the working parts have been electropenciled or 129. No, they've been engraved, and they've previously been electropenciled. So God knows how many rifles he's been through, but it's all been tightened up. It's very, very tight. There's no upper to lower slop, which is an issue because the rear sight is on the lower and the front sight is on the upper. So if they get very, very sloppy in the hinge, you've got an obvious.
Was that a prevalent thing?
Certainly by the end of service, they were all rattling shagged out, and a lot of the propaganda around the L85 being super accurate, part of that was it had an optic. Part of that is it's in 5.56, so less recoil, easier to shoot. Part of that is those rifles are brand new and being compared to absolutely shagged out end-of-life SLRs.
For mine, with a metric receiver, although mine was a surplus kit that was put onto a new receiver, it has no slop to it. But the grips, I believe, these are late wood grips. Our friends at Apex actually helped us source these. But the previous Australian SLRs had the wood extended all the way to the front. But my barrel is technically about a 1/4 inch shorter than yours.
It's hidden though.
It's hidden. It's hidden, so you couldn't really see it. And our gunsmith Mike even did the full the actual keyway cut on the barrel to put the locking disc on instead of using what typically people just tighten it with a crush washer or fasten it with silver solder in the States. The reason for that is because when these kits were imported, they had to cut the threads off when they were built into rifles during the ban era. So this originally came with just a flash hider, no threads on it, and I had to get the threads redone. And Mike also had to do what the keyway cut is, that's vertical, the straight slot right here. And there's a wheel that sits in and a pin that locks everything in. It is very British engineered.
Well, they, I mean, the proper way of timing it is they have a set of, I think it's 15, don't quote me on that, timing washers. So you find the right thickness washer and then torque it down to whatever the spec was and it should line up.
Well, Mike had hand-timed the entire thing with a lathe.
Ah, well.
Yeah. But regardless, this is the best that I could do with a limited budget because there are actual L1A1s in America that were interestingly imported to law enforcement only, and then the ATF went back and said, "Oh, you've got the safety sear in it."
It's the out of battery safety sear, which interestingly, this one doesn't have. The first SLR I had in the Netherlands, which was the first centerfire semi-auto rifle I ever owned, that I believe was ex-Falkland Islands Defence Force and had a little bit of slop. That was more a 4 minute of angle rifle, and that had nothing done to it. I presume that when these were factory refurbed, and they were done in the UK because they've got modern British commercial proofs on them.
Right.
I presume that because there's some countries that don't give a damn. It's just what was it built as? It was built as a semi-auto. Who cares? There's other countries that care about readily convertibility. I can't speak English. I shall try Englishing better. Whether things are readily convertible or not, and that's what the ATF got its knickers in a twist about.
Yeah.
I'll translate for the Americans: panties in a bunch.
It's not. I don't have it on this one. I don't have the safety steer on this one.
Oh, no, ATF would be coming to shoot your dog if you did.
Indeed. And great that you know about our customs in America with law enforcement. But the system itself, I forgot to talk about the sights that I have.
Yeah, you have a Hive,
yes.
And I have a Standard.
And interesting thing, I wanted to talk about our preferences to these sights. Now, I trained on the M16 system, so the Hive sight was I was very accustomed to the Hive sights arrangement, because you had the large sight, which for me translating to the M16 would be the 0-2. Flip it up, and I have a nice pinhole sight that is wider than the M16A2 sights, but still something I am very comfortable with. So you have low light and daylight, and it is a more precise sight than the standard British issue. But Mike,
the Hive. Oh, sorry, go on.
Go ahead. You like something different.
Yeah. See, the things I have a Hive sight, and I had it on my old one, but I kept it when I put a standard one on just so that I could keep the Hive. Now, it's meant to work with the tritium front sight with the big aperture, and the battalion shooting teams back in there used to like the Hive sights because you had the smaller aperture, which on a flat range is fantastic. And basically all the competition shooting was known distance, still is, known distance, flat range stuff. If you're going to have a compromise for everything, I would much rather have this. And those who followed my channel will know that I am a fan of the Ghost Ring. I'm a fan of the number 4 Ghost Ring. I find that the SLR one, the Hive, the Ghost Ring on the Hive, ends up being, it seems bigger, and it might just be that it ends up closer to your eye than on a number 4. See, I find it's too big, and then
It is very big.
It's very, very, very large. It would be fantastic in low light when you're using the tritium front sight. And then imagine it being about 5 p.m. in Finland and Finnish brutality, and it's very overcast and drizzling slightly. And Jari CEO Varsaleka likes his not painted grey targets on a grey background. And as soon as you stop down the aperture that far, you're going to struggle to see the target against the background, and that becomes a potential issue. So this is why I will be taking this as is and not putting a Hive sight on it.
Interesting.
Although I'm going to shoot optics, but optics can fail. If I needed to, I can drop them off.
And of course, you have the base mount to the very best British optics that we shall speak of in a different episode.
Yes, that's a little teaser.
So, the SLR. I wanted to hear from you what it stood for in British culture, because of course, for me in Hong Kong as a young boy growing up, these were the rifles that the Hong Kong Volunteer Forces, the Hong Kong Volunteer Regiment, was using with trop shirts and the SLR. Even all the way up till 96, I believe it was disbanded, right before the 97 turnover. So for me, this has a little bit of a... This takes me back to the 90s, to the days.
So for the Brits, it's part of the silhouette of the old Cold Warriors. So you've got the 58 webbing. This is a slightly alified set putting together for Finnish brutality, and either a beret or the Mark IV sort of second variant turtle helmet with scrim all over it. I mean, and this was the silhouette of the mainline infantry until the mid 80s when the L85 starts to displace it, and so it's very much part of that image of the Cold Warrior, and it was generally loved by the people who used it, even though by modern standards they're well behind the curve, and they're not that reliable by modern standards. But yeah, it's kind of it's iconic in the way that the L85 isn't.
The rifle itself for that era was actually quite nice.
It's very ergonomic, and the plastic stocks. The shape is not quite the same. As you can see, it's similar, but it's not quite the same. And I find these to be very, very, very ergonomic.
Is this a Lee Enfield shaped stock?
No.
No.
It's the Indian 2A and 2A1 have SLR butt plates on them, if I remember rightly.
Interesting.
But that's not the same shape as a. It's similar and it's inspired from it, but it's not the same. It's not the same shape. It's got the butt trap, which you lose on the. There's no butt trap on the plastic ones.
Yeah. So if one thing I did want to mention, I know in passing you've spoke to me that as I spice up my rifle, I really ought to take the sling off to increase the alliness.
I mean, it was one of the things that you hear of like the paras being told not that they weren't allowed the slings. Although in Northern Ireland they had to use the slings but attach their arms so that no one could take the rifle off them.
Ah, interesting.
It's sort of as a cuff, it's a retention device, but it's this whole thing of, oh yeah, you should have it in your hands ready all the time, blah blah blah. The carry handles are usually very stiff because
mine is not stiff at all.
No,
my old one used to be stiff. The new one is not.
But these were hardly ever unfolded, and unless you were in light infantry in a rifle regiment doing drill, because they hold at the trail and they march at like 120 beats per minute or something. It's quite fast, and they used it for that. Otherwise, storming, moving them around in bulk. But it was one of those things of, I mean, even standard infantry were not allowed to carry the rifle by the carry handle. It's like, carry handle exists, army, no.
So you brought up Northern Ireland. I'm not trying to bring anything too much on the political side of that, but I still remember distinctively, I remember watching the news and seeing old images of paras and squaddies kicking doors down, doing CQB with these things. Yep.
It's not the greatest thing for it. It is quite long. It's almost as long as a Dragunov.
In fact,
you have it.
I have a Dragunov, and the top is just slightly longer than the SLR.
It's that very long but very effective flash suppressor that does it.
I do like the SLR, despite its length. It's very, it's hard to describe. It's very carryable. It's easy to march with.
It's very well balanced.
Pointable.
It's got a fairly light barrel on it. Yeah, it's very portable. It's very pointable. The point of balance is good. It's by far the most ergonomic of the FAL variants.
Agreed.
In my opinion, the fore-end shape is good. It's not front heavy. The Austrian Sturmgewehr 58 I always find is desperately front heavy. And this just has a good point of balance about on the magazine.
The magazine release too.
It has a magazine release that falls under your thumb rather than having to go fighting to find the magic button. It has a folding cocking handle that is supposed to fold itself away but doesn't always. For its era, it's quite well thought out, and the sights. It's got tall sights like the Israeli ones, and they're relatively fine. It gives you a good sight picture. I find the standard metric sights that are shorter and stubbier and fatter, they're short and stubby and fatter, and they just don't do it for me in the same way. I mean, if you're used to an M16 hindsight picture, you're going to feel right at home with this. if you've got this workspace concept that the Americans have, everything's within that on a FAL. Right. Whereas with the G3, you're reaching out into the next county to reach the cocking handle. Which is another thing I don't like about it.
On top of that, the recoil sensation is it's a gas operated weapon. So what Josh and I had learned from shooting a lot of G3s and HK33s the last year or 2 years is that the recoil sensation generated from the recoil delayed blowback system on the rifle specifically, you have to get used to that before you can get effective shots on target, because it doesn't translate well to recoil mitigation techniques that Americans are used to. Whereas a traditional gas piston system, it's very easy to translate that.
Yeah, there's nothing strange about this, and actually the length of pull is variable on the British ones because they issue different butt lengths, and once they went over to plastic, there's different butt plate thicknesses, so it can be fitted to the individual. But the length of pull on the G3 is excessive.
So, all things considered, I would say emotionally this is a 10 out of 10 for me. I would say for me, understanding where it came from, I can forgive a lot of its modern day performance attributes just for the romanticized storybook image of the SLR. And as we could see today, they can be fairly effective on range if you're able to make sure gas systems and magazines are maintained, which unfortunately, as you spoke, the magazines, that's one of the unfortunate weak spots of the rifle.
Yeah. That's a shame. I wish they were more reliable. They could have been more reliable with better magazines.
And yet, FN decided to take the same magazine design and put it onto the next generation Scar Heavy.
When AR-10 PMags exist, why? Because they have the tooling, and then they wouldn't have to pay Magpul, probably.
Alas.
Yeah.
SLR, a good buy? Yes. If you're romantic like Mike and I, yes.
I'm looking forward to running it again. I ran my first Brutality with a borrowed Rattly Australian one, and I'm looking forward to running it again, but mine. So that'll be good.
Well, good. I think this thing ought to have a different look in perhaps the next episode that we have.
Indeed.
We'll see you on the range.
This is 096, 4 Vic, 8 packs, Redcon 1, green to green. How copy, over?
096, this is 716, roger, over. 091, 1 pack, green, green, over. This is 716, roger, over.
16, 2, 1 Victor, 2 packs, Redcon 1, over.